This video is a little bit postponed. I was a little sick last week, but today I thought I'd show you what I do and how I do it. And specifically, I'm going to be working on a wall slide mechanic. I'm also going to show you what I've done the previous week. So I hope you're going to enjoy the video. If you're here for the first time, my name is Noah and I work on a game called Clara and the Eternal Tower, which is the work in progress title. If you want a place where you can follow the updates on the game, you can go follow me on my Instagram. I'll link it down below. And that's pretty much it for the intro. This is the first time I'm doing it like this, so I hope you enjoy. Anyway, let's get to the rest of the video. I'm going to show you some of the stuff that I've done. You can see I've done some tile sets and some background elements. I'm going to do much more, and I'm also going to do a bunch of foreground elements because I want some stuff to be able to animate as the player is passing through. Now, these I've discovered I need to change them a little bit, make them a little lighter because there's just too much contrast, I think. Or what I mean, rather, I need to darken this running blocks actually and make the center block a little lighter and as well as give it a texture because I've discovered I really wanted to make it textureless just to kind of give the eyes a break. But I've discovered that I actually like it to have a texture, but it to be very, very dark. After I did this video, that's what I'm probably going to be focusing on, as well as giving the player some new animations, which brings me to the topic of the player. We have a player character now, or like a finalized design of the player character, I should say. There's still some animations that are a little rough, but I'm really, really liking this, and I wanted to go for a simplified version because I was just killing myself with the other stuff, and it was not looking good, and I'm going to show it to you later because it's ugly. But this one is so simple. I like the difference in contrast between the hair and the face and the rest of the body. I think that looks really good. I might change some of the colors because I like to dress Clara. Hello, this is Clara. I like to dress Clara in purples and oranges, and this doesn't really have purples and oranges except for a little bit of like specks on her face mask. I'm excited to show some of the animations to you. I was really surprised that I can make such simple animations and make them look decent, in my opinion. After testing them out in Unity, I decided to redo some of them, for example, like the jumping animation and the falling animation specifically. I really like her Naruto run. One of my biggest obstacles to animation, because I was feeling a little stuck with my animation skills, was to remove the need to make 50 frames for each animation. This is just 2 frames, and I think it looks decent enough. Ignoring the tentacles in the background, this is a background piece that I did for the game. It's still unfinished. It's just like flat colors. I need to change the sky color, I think, but I think I'm going to try implementing it in the game today just to get a better idea of what colors I want to use and how to contrast the tiles with the background. I divided each section into layers, so I will be giving them a parallax effect at some point when I learn how to do that. But yeah, then because I like torturing myself, I started a big illustration of my world building project. This is a huge file, and I've been making this world since I was like 14, I want to say. All my stories have been set in it. The game that I'm currently working on is set in it, and hopefully future games as well. And this is why I like game development so much, because it's going to give me a chance to let somebody explore it without just writing about it, right? Like I can describe it all I want, but this I can show it to someone. And even more than that, I can make somebody go through it and see it the way I see it in my head, which makes me super, super excited. I hope people are going to like it. This is a piece I've been struggling with a lot. I've been working on it for 3 days, but I decided to scrap it in the end. But my idea was all the background assets are going to be like hand-drawn. Everything is going to be placed everywhere. Nothing is going to be tiled. But I like tiles. I don't mind them. There's definitely going to be areas like this as well, but I need to find an easier way to make them and include tiles in them. Because I am just one person and I want this game to be playable at some point, so I need to survive for that to be possible. I have a background in fine art and design, so I was kind of trying to use that approach, but I don't think it's a good approach for this type of project. I was getting very frustrated with it, I'm not going to lie, and it made me not want to work on other aspects of the game at all. So I think it's important for me to know how to take an L and just move on, so that's what I'm going to do. Speaking of L's, let me show you this ugly thing. I really sat down and I drew this, and I was like, yeah, that's fine, that's acceptable. Like, what the fuck? It makes me upset to look at. It looks like what was I thinking? Why are there so many frames? Like, it doesn't even look good. And that's pretty much it when it comes to art and assets. So now I'm going to be going into Unity and showing you what I'm going to be doing today. In case I forgot to mention it, I'm probably going to include it in the title if I did, but I'm going to be autotiling as well. So that means letting Unity do some of the work for me, setting up rules for the tiles, or something called a rule tile. And I'll explain. So for some reason, my recording software, which is the one that comes with Windows 10, like the Xbox Game Bar, I think it's called, it just didn't want to record my sprite editor, but I'm going to show you what settings I use for slicing up a tile set. So this is my new game project. It's just called Clara's Game. Welcome. You need a package called Unity 2D Extras, which is actually made by Unity to be able to autotile in Unity, so it doesn't work with the default program. I'm going to leave a link down below if you are interested in doing the same. The first setting that I'm changing, as you can see, is this pixel per unit thing, which basically means how many pixels you want to be contained in one Unity unit. And a unit, in this case, you don't have to think about it too hard. It's just one grid cell. And because I was working with a 32 by 32 tile set, I'm going to be putting in 32 as my pixels per unit. I discovered too late that it's important to match these as closely as you can, or else your lines just get kind of distorted, and some look smaller, some look bigger, and it's just, it's important to get the right ratio. And here I turned on the sprite editor, but it's invisible for some reason. But anyway, I changed, if you can see in the corner, I changed sprite mode to multiple, and I also changed filter mode to point and compression to none, which is why my pixels are crisp now. I've been working with a lot of problems when it came to blurry pixels, but now I know how to make them smooth. So if you have the same problem, this is something you can do, and it's honestly the easiest solution probably, but I was struggling with it for so long. As you can probably see, my invisible sprite editor phase is finished, and now I have all these pixels separated. So now I'm going to be making a rule tile and just establishing some rules. So this is what my rule tile looks like. It's basically just a bunch of directions for where Unity is supposed to place which tile. And this is what making it looks like. You're basically just telling each sprite where to go and what's around it. I apparently forgot to film it, which is of course amazing, but this is what it looks like after I've autotiled, or after I've placed down some tiles, and I'm just adjusting some of the colliders here. And I'm going to show you what it looks like without the wall jump. You can see here, we're jumping around, having the time of our lives. And there is a little bug that I've noticed where she's not detecting the ground if she's on the corner of a platform, which is basically because I'm using one raycast, so a line down the middle of my character to detect if I'm standing on the ground or not. I think that can be fixed by using two, or maybe even an overlap circle to detect colliders underneath my character, but that's not something I'm going to be focusing on today. This is something that I decided to fix immediately. You can see here, sometimes when she's running and starts jumping, she actually maintains the run in air, which is not something that's supposed to happen. So I'm going to just mess with the animator a little bit. And to fix that, I just added a new condition that she can only transition from and to a running cycle while she's grounded. And that seemed to fix the problem for the time being. When it comes to code, I'm going to be linking a couple tutorials down below, which in my opinion are really, really good for anyone who wants to learn movement and help me get a firm grasp on both movement and how to organize my code, because I really like when everything looks neat and organized. So now I'm going to be setting up a wall slide mechanic. Of course, I don't have animations for it, but the first thing I need is to know whether or not I'm hitting a wall. And for that, I'm going to be making a bool, which is going to help me define a raycast, or basically just a line from the center of my character. And this float that I'm currently making is going to tell me the length of the line that I'm drawing. When I'm declaring variables, I always hate deciding what numbers to put in because I'm going to be changing them later anyways. But here I put 1 because why not? And I'm making a raycast in my update function. I'm just going to copy my on-ground bool and just change the vector to right and the ground length to the wall length. So since you actually can't see a raycast, I'm also gonna draw a line in my gizmos so I can see it while I'm editing. And full transparency, I messed up my code really badly and I still have nuggets of shit here and there. So if you see them, try to ignore them. Thank you. So this is what it looks like once set up. The line is currently too long and would create problems for me if I decided to leave it this long, but I just want to test if it works first. And apparently my sprite was not centered to my object, which was weird. So I had to bring everything down and move everything around. So that created some problems down the line. You're going to see a little later. The reason why I keep the sprite separate from the player is because I like to do the animation separately, because sometimes I record rotations, and I don't want the game object itself to rotate and mess up everything else. So I just like to do it purely graphically rather than physically, if that makes sense. Like if I rotate 180, I don't want the particles that are set up at her feet to suddenly start sharding out of her head. And here you can see that when we approach a wall, it does indeed detect it. So it works, and that's cool. And when I said problems earlier, you can see this bug when the sprite jumps and starts falling, it kind of pulls down, which is not the intention. So let's fix that. It turned out that I recorded a position change in the sprite accidentally, so I removed that. And it seemed to work fine. Except for now the running in the air bug returned, which of course it did. And I did end up fixing it, but I did not record it, which now I wish I did because I forgot how I did it. So now back into Visual Studio, into my code, I just made 2 new variables. What's happening? Where am I? That was a little embarrassing. Continuing where we left off, I made a bool to help me define when I'm actually sliding, false by default because I'm not sliding when I start the game, and a sliding speed, which will help me define how fast I slide. In my update function, I just added an if statement, which says that if you're not on the ground, if you're on a wall, and if you're pressing the arrow keys, then you're wall sliding. And if you're not, then you're not, and the bool is false. And I think a good rule of thumb is to detect player input in the update function, and then down below in the fixed update function, you actually make changes to the physics and apply different forces. You can see here, I made it so that if wall sliding is active, then we wall slide. And I notice now, while I'm editing this, that it's fucking annoying how much I scroll around for no reason, but I have ADHD, so I just fidget with my mouse. I'm sorry. I realize now it's annoying. So yeah, I just made a new method for wall sliding, and then if you press the jump button while you're sliding, then you jump. I want to have a separate animation for the wall jump, so I'm eventually going to be making a separate method, but not today. The wall slide, I just changed the velocity of the rigid body, which is the physics component of the player character, and I declare a new vector 2, meaning that I'm defining how fast it's moving on the x and on the y-axis, and for the x-axis, I just keep it the same, and for the y-axis, I do a mathf.clamp, which basically just sets it so that it can't exceed a negative sliding speed, meaning that it's always going to be moving down at a constant rate. If you put negative, that means that it's going to be moving downwards, and this is its max speed. So in this case, it's 0.5. So if my calculations are correct, I did not do well in math in school, but it's going to be moving at half a tile a second. And that's basically it. And now we're back to Unity, and I did not record it, but to make it work from both sides, I added another raycast to the back of the character, and we can see here that it works. You stick to walls, which is really, really good. And you can even do little wall jumps. So now all that's left is for me to make some animations to make this look cool and mess around with the numbers until it feels right. And that's basically it. I really like wall jumps, so the game is definitely going to be having a heavy focus on wall jumps. And I already have the first level kind of planned out, like very detailed, or I have the first 3 chapters planned out. But now I am going detailed into the first chapter, and you can see I still have some bugs here and there with the animation, but I'm going to be adding some raycasts to the feet to help me with that problem. What I'm going to be focusing on this week is to make, or I guess it's Thursday today, so I have only a few days left, but what I'm going to be focusing on for the rest of the week is to smooth out some of the player animations, make some additional tiles for the levels, redesign these tiles, add a little bit less contrast, implement the background to make a parallax effect, and make a crumbling tile. And as a bonus, I think I'm also going to work on some designs for some creatures around and maybe some UI. We'll see. Also, if you're still watching, and if you watched me for a little while, I think the videos are now going to be looking like this, because this is much more pleasant for me to record. I don't necessarily like being in front of my camera. I do have a TikTok and I have about 1,000 followers, so I put myself out there a lot, but YouTube is a little different. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see if I miss it or not. Also, I want to apologize for the video being a little late. I was sick the whole week, pretty much. I had to get a corona test. I'm not sure what it was. It was not corona. But yeah, I'm still a little bit like, but I'm getting better. So now I'm feeling up to, going back to doing this every day. Anyway, the next video is going to be on time. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye.